If you're curious about how to use thyme as a lawn substitute, stay tuned and I'll show you what I did. Hi, Susie Dingle's Shadow here, and I thought you'd be interested in seeing this thyme lawn that I installed at my husband's office several years ago. And I'll show you how I put it in, how I've maintained it, some of the issues that can come up with creating a lawn like this. I hope you enjoy it and consider doing an alternate grass lawn yourself. For most of the year, the lawn is in subtle shades of green and gray, and I'm in awe of how beautiful it looks, especially in the morning light or with a light frost. Thyme doesn't like to be waterlogged, so I made the soil free draining by adding some decomposed granite. Now you could use other materials to it just to make sure that the water flows through. And this is on a slight slope, so that helped as well. After that, I put the compost down and installed the stepping stones. I used 4-inch plants and put them 1 foot apart, which is fairly dense, but I wanted very quick coverage. You could spread them out a little more, but it would just take more time for the plants to fully fill in. The following year, the plants had filled in, and I loved the way it looked, especially with all the planting beds around it. It made it look even more like a real lawn. Now that summer was pretty hot, and I chose not to add any additional water. And what happened was some of the plants in the center started to die back a little, and you'll see that in this picture that was taken during the late fall. But they sprung right back the following year with no problem. By the second year, I was convinced that the plants were going to do just fine with both the summer drought that we get every year and without my having to add any additional water, and also with our rains that we get, because without that good drainage, the plants could easily die from being waterlogged. For a thyme lawn, be sure to use the mat or creeping varieties. There's other kinds that grow taller, hundreds of different times, but make sure you get the ones that grow only a few inches tall. And there's many species of and cultivars of thyme, so look around. Most are hardy between USDA zones 5 to 9. I used woolly thyme and then also a small one called elfin thyme that has more green in it, and it's slower to spread, but I like the way it looked around the stepping stones. Thyme needs as much sun as you can give it, and these have light from sunrise until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From a design perspective, I wanted the stepping stones and the lawn to look integrated, as if it was a whole unit. So I placed them going through the lawn and putting the plants on either side of the stepping stones. Keep in mind that the bees are attracted to the flowers, and most of the time they just are more interested in the flowers than they are in humans. But to give a little more distance between the walkers and the bees, I used very large stepping stones. Thyme doesn't like a soil that's too rich, so you really don't have to add any fertilizers or compost, anything like that. However, I do put compost on bare spots, especially in the summer, but that's really not necessary, and the reason I do it is to keep the weeds down. Speaking of weeds, that is the primary maintenance that has to happen on a thyme lawn. If you let the weeds creep in, they will take over the lawn, especially if they grow up taller. They'll eventually shade out the thyme. I made sure that this lawn area was completely weeded for a couple of years before I installed the plants, and also I stay on top of it when the seedlings are just very, very small. The lawn is going into its 5th year, and each year there's fewer and fewer weeds. Until next time, keep dreaming in the garden.